So as Matthew crafts this gospel in a way that tries to convey a specific message to his Hebrew readers, right, this message of the king is come, the king is here, the kingdom of God is at hand, Jesus begins to walk step for step with the nation of Israel through the story. And Jesus runs away with his family to Egypt, just as Israel did with his sons, and then he's called out of Egypt and he passes through the Jordan River just as the children of Israel passed through the Red Sea, and then he immediately goes into the wilderness for 40 days to fast, but it says in the scriptures to be tested. That's kind of a strange way to think about Jesus. Does God test us? Is God tempting Jesus? And why would Jesus want to or need to be tempted anyway? If he's God, why would he be tempted? Well, we're missing something that Matthew is playing on here. You see, way back in the book of Deuteronomy, Moses reminds the Israelites, who also, when they left the Red Sea, went into the wilderness for a period of their own 40 years rather than 40 days, but in the wilderness for 40 years. At the end of this time, Moses reminds them, Deuteronomy chapter 8, he says, "For God led you into the wilderness to test you, so that he may know what was in your heart." You see, the Hebrew word for testing is the same as the word to mean to know, to experience. And so it's not testing in the sense that we might think of where I sit down to demonstrate my knowledge to prove that I'm worthy. It's to be exposed. God led Israel into the wilderness to expose what was in their hearts, so that God could experience what was in the heart of Israel. God knew what was in their heart, but he wanted to experience it. In Matthew's gospel, Jesus immediately goes into the wilderness to also be tested for a period of 40 days. But this is not testing so that he can prove his worth as much as it is so that the reader can experience what is in Jesus' heart. And it's beautiful the way that Matthew crafts this story, because Jesus walks step for step into all of the trials that Israel walked in when they were in the desert, in the wilderness. Not only does Jesus walk through the same trials as Israel, he responds every time with the words of Moses from the book of Deuteronomy. It is written, and then he fills in the passage. You see, Jesus is doing exactly what Moses did. Moses, that hero of the Israelite faith, that covenant maker with God, the champion of the Hebrew. Jesus not only walks step for step with Moses, but in Matthew's gospel, he surpasses him. And the claim is simple: something greater than Moses is here. The king has returned.